How's it going, guys? Vaibhav here and welcome back to another video. Now this one's gonna be about the ROG Phone 3 from Asus, and it was actually one of the comments in one of my previous videos, and I thought I'd cover it given that there are exactly 5 days before we hear about this smartphone. So this thing is coming out in 5 days or just shy of 5 days, and I wanted to talk about it because it's sort of the spark that the end of 2020 needs when it comes to gaming smartphones in general. I talked about the Nubia Play 5G, I think it was a couple of months ago. I also talked about the Lenovo Legion gaming smartphone that's coming out in a few days time. I think it's coming out one day before or one day after this one, but there's a lot to talk about the ROG Phone 3. Now one thing I can talk about is the fact that the ROG Phone 3 isn't that big of an upgrade when it comes to design. So this was the ROG Phone 2, and keep this in mind when we look at the ROG Phone 3 leaks, because to me they seem very similar, and I can see why Asus has done this, because I think the ROG Phone 2 was a great leap in terms of hardware, in terms of design, so they want to keep it a fairly familiar looking chassis and make sure they develop the internals, bring in things that gamers would really enjoy. So this was the ROG Phone 2, and this is the first look at the ROG Phone 3. Now to me it looks fairly similar. The only difference is the fact that the Phone 2 had this sort of diagonal or this side line going across it. The ROG Phone 3 obviously doesn't. Now this is a photo from Evan Blast. Check him out on Twitter if you can. Basically he leaks smartphone details, and this is one of the details that he leaked. Unfortunately, most of his other leaks are behind a paywall, and I can't really unveil all that to you, so we're just gonna deal with what we've got. But there have been other leaks for the smartphone, including a video which I'm going to showcase to you in this video as well. Now this next thing I want to talk about is the fact that this phone is going to come with the fastest ever processor out there. It's going to be the most powerful gaming phone, the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 plus 5G on board, and this was a video shared by Asus India, and it obviously has Kari Minati in it, so he is one of the biggest Indian influencers out there, and he's basically touting this to be the most powerful smartphone out there. Now in terms of other specifications aside from the 865 plus, I want to get to that, but let's talk about the 865 plus. It's not a major upgrade over the 865. If you look at it, it's just a boost in clock speed, and the benchmarks actually show you exactly that. So it scores a 646,310 score on Antutu benchmark, and I know fairly new smartphones like the OnePlus 8 can, or the 8 Pro rather, can breach the 600,000 mark, so it isn't that big of an upgrade in terms of processing power. So we're looking at a clock speed of 3.1 gigahertz over the 2.9 or 2.94 I think gigahertz on the 865. So it's a very modest upgrade if you ask me, but an upgrade nonetheless, and for gaming enthusiasts, people will appreciate that small bit of power. Now if we actually go and look at this more in depth, we've got LPDDR5 memory, so that's great, UFS 3.0 storage, one of the fastest out there, and the UX points to a 144Hz refresh rate. Now I don't know if this 144Hz means refresh rate or something else, but to me it seems like the display on this thing is going to be 144Hz, because the ROG Phone 2 had a 120Hz refresh rate display. So I guess it makes sense for them to upgrade, and Asus is known for upgrading their displays to the maximum limit. I know they've done, I think, 300Hz displays on their laptops already, and even further, so it would make sense for Asus to throw in a high refresh rate display on a gaming phone. Now as far as design goes, well, this is a video of the phone itself. This comes from Sparrow's News. Go check them out. Again, I'll leave relevant links to all these things that I talk about in the description down below if you want a more in-depth look. But basically this is the phone in a nutshell. To me it looks really big, and the screen itself is a 6.59 or a 6.39. We're gonna get into the specifications in just a bit, but looks really big, looks really chunky. I'm guessing it's going to be heavier as well, so you're going to be looking at around 200 to 250 grams as far as weight is concerned. It does look sleek, but at the same time, to me, it's not appealing enough to buy. Now, this is a glimpse at the screen itself. It's not borderless, it's not notchless. It does have a notch on the top as well as the bottom, but that's what you have to expect when it comes to a gaming phone, because this means you're going to get stereo speakers and good quality stereo speakers. But speaking of stereo speakers, you're not going to get the 3.5mm headphone jack. That's a big bummer. That seems like a downgrade over the ROG Phone 2, especially for gamers who want to use their own headsets for gaming. this might be something that wouldn't go down well for potential buyers. But I think that's enough of prefacing. Let's actually get into the specifications. So we're looking at around a 10mm thickness for the phone. That's thicker or almost as thick as the Motorola Edge Plus. So a really large smartphone, curvy, not that boxy looking by this video, but we're looking at a 6-point-something inch display. Now we're not exactly sure what this display is going to be, but bear with me while I get to that. It doesn't actually show you in these specifications, but I would say it's a 6.59-inch display giving, oh there it is, so a 6.59-inch AMOLED display at Full HD Plus resolution, and we're obviously expecting the 144Hz refresh rate. It's also got a weight of 240 grams, and just to put that in perspective, the OnePlus 8 Pro has a weight of 200 grams and it feels relatively light, so 40 grams on top of that means it's gonna be even heavier than, you know, your biggest flagship smartphones out there. Now, one thing I would give credit to Asus for doing is, even that it has a thicker chassis, it has a big footprint, as you can see from this video. This guy just might have small hands like me, but the one thing that I do give credit to Asus for is the battery. So it's going to be a 6000 milliamp hour battery, 5800 milliamp hours as rated here, but it's going to be 6000 on the overall front, and it's also going to support 30-watt fast charging. So that's something that gamers could appreciate. Now, in terms of camera, we don't know anything much about the quality of the cameras, but we do know that it's going to be a 64 megapixel primary camera on board. I'm sure Asus is not going to skimp out when it comes to camera, so 64 megapixels sounds good on paper. We might also expect some sort of ultra wide angle lens. That's obviously an upgrade to the ROG Phone 3 here. So the ROG Phone 2 only had 2 cameras. This one has 3 cameras, so it's an upgrade on that front too. As far as the front-facing camera goes, I think we're looking at around a 12 to a 13 megapixel sensor. Again, it does a decent job, and I'm not expecting anything in terms of camera performance here. This phone is designed for gaming at the end of the day, and these are more snippets of what the phone will bring. Now, one thing that I'm a bit unsure about is the fact that it doesn't have any sort of bumpers on the sides of the phone. Now, this could be the way the photos are taken, as you can see right here. It's not very clear, but at the same time, if Asus or Asus manages to not bring in this technology into their smartphone, it could be a big bummer for those people who want to play, let's say, FPS games, because I think bumpers on the side of the smartphone comes in really handy for things like shooting or things like aiming, for example, if you want to play FPS games, that is. And I think many people who buy this phone are going to be playing FPS games like PUBG or Call of Duty Mobile on this smartphone, and for them to not throw in a feature like this might be alluding to cost cutting. But I don't know. I mean, there is competition when it comes to gaming smartphones now. We've got so many from Nubia. We've got the Lenovo Legion gaming phone coming up. We've got this phone. So it's not a very unsaturated or untapped market. And being such a fiercely competitive market in the last couple of months, I feel like Asus might be, you know, saving costs to maybe appeal to a larger amount of public. So the ROG Phone 2, for example, was 37,999 rupees, or is rather available right now, and that translates to around 1,862 dirhams in the UAE, and I'm guessing the ROG 3 phone will be around the same price tag as well. And I say that because for that price tag, you're getting flagship specifications, you're getting a decent camera experience, no headphone jack, which, you know, is a debatable thing to have, but apart from that, I think you're getting a good 144Hz refresh rate display, Full HD Plus, not the full Quad HD Plus resolution displays we see on flagships, but you do get that customization. So if you look back on this video, you get this customization of LED lights, and I think that adds to the cost of the smartphone as well. Plus, there might be cooling enhancements that Asus is working on for the smartphone, which, you know, spreads out the heat dissipation on the smartphone, makes it a more comfortable experience for gamers. But that's everything that's very speculative, and we'll have to wait and see what Asus really comes up with in the next couple of days. So as I said, 5 days or just shy of 5 days to go for this smartphone. It's an exciting one, and it's exciting particularly because the Lenovo Legion phone is releasing right with it, and I want to see the differences between these two smartphones and the price differences and how they aim it in different market segments. Now, this release is happening in India, and that's why Asus India is sort of the forefront when it comes to leaking and releasing information about the smartphone, but I'm hoping that this smartphone also makes it to the UAE, because I love to cover a gaming smartphone. The last gaming smartphone I covered was maybe 2 years back, so I want to see the differences, I want to see the hype, I want to see what it's all about, and hopefully I can get my hands on one very shortly. But yeah, that's basically all that you need to know about the Asus ROG Phone 3. It's a pretty decent smartphone, and especially at that price tag, I think many people are going to go for it if they don't mind, you know, the big chassis, if they don't mind that decrement when it comes to camera performance. But yeah, this was Vaibhav, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.